Welcome back to Darius's Budget Garage. Today we're going to get going forward on making a Harley Powered Harley Davidson golf cart. If you guys followed the last video, you saw me tear down my Harley. I did not get it running, but doesn't matter. We're still going forward. We'll figure this thing out. And then I completely tore apart my golf cart, and I ended the video with kind of a rear axle sitting where it goes and a motor sitting roughly where it goes in this thing. So we're gonna start today's video. I'm gonna start mounting the motor. So anyways, I've got this beam tube frame that we've gone over pretty in depth on the last video, and I was so sure I was gonna cut the thing out, and well, it turns out I'm not cutting the frame out. It all works out, leaving the frame exactly the way it was. So that works out awesome. It's gonna start, I gotta get a motor mount somewhere. This here seems like the simplest motor mount. I've already taken some measurements, laid it out on the table. It's gonna be 1/2 inch on the bottom holes, because those are like a dowel pin for good alignment. And then on top, it's 412. I'm guessing that's probably clearance for a 3/8 bolt. So there we go. I've got my basic shape of a motor mount. Bolts here and here, hangs up about another 4 inches. I don't know that this is the motor mount I'm gonna stay with, but like I said, I have to get some kind of mount on there so the motor's somewhat rigid before I can really start getting picky about how the motor sits. And once I get something in there, I have a little visual, and then I can see exactly which direction I want to go. Kind of look at it. Make sure that I'm building a mount that's going to be in shear and rotational and all that. Make sure it's strong enough. Figure out how to get said tab that's going to come up from here and then connect him to here. I'm gonna try to get everything other than the motor and myself on the passenger side of this thing, try to get as even a weight distribution as possible. I mean, we're starting out with, from what I've read, a little over 200 pounds, plus a little under 200 pounds. And so I need to try to balance that out by moving things to the passenger side. Anyways, enough talking about it. I'm gonna cut and drill my first motor mount bracket, and then we're making steps forward towards having a Harley Powered golf cart. Rear motor mount right here. I think what I'm going to do for starters is just get some kind of motor mount plates bolted to this thing, and then I'll figure out how to attach them to the frame. Still not entirely sure if just this center beam frame deal is going to be the way to go, but so I'm going to start. We'll see how it looks.
So off camera, I decided to change direction a little bit. I decided it'd be better for me to mount the motor off the head first. I could pivot from the front working rearward, so here I am making a little bracket.
So some of you may or may not do much of this, but when you're making custom brackets really like this, there's all kinds of arts and crafts time. I could sit and try to map this out and probably screw it up 2 or 3 times before I get something that works. So I take some cardboard and a Sharpie, and we're gonna get up here. I'm gonna describe around the diameter of this pipe or tube or whatever it is. We're gonna get a radius fitting good here, and then we can go from there with making a bracket how we want. So we're gonna take the stiffener and we're gonna cope it to the size of this pipe, and then we're gonna build some kind of bracket that comes up like so, and then we will have what was a weak motor mount, and we will have a strong motor mount. So I'm gonna quit talking and get to working. So I went and scribed around the pipe. We're gonna do a little trim here, and then I already know that I'm gonna, once it gets a little deeper, I'm gonna have to trim it again. got a good fit all the way to the bottom. So now I'm gonna mark kind of how far down this bracket's gonna go around here, which I think it's gonna be about there. So there's the bottom of my pipe. There's the driver's side of my motor mount. There and there. Wham bam, Bob's your uncle. There we go. Slip it in here and see if we like it. I like it. So now we go make it out of metal.
A few moments later.
So literally nothing I build doesn't get go fast holes. By go fast holes, I mean lightning holes. And by lightning holes, I mean it isn't making this thing really lighter. It's not worthwhile making it any lighter. But you know what the go fast holes do? They look cool. So we're going to get to laying out some go fast holes. I've already started at the bottom with like a 1/2 inch hole. Step the whole size up towards the back here. I'm not really worried about being lightweight here, but I am worried about looking cool. Boom. Yep, we'll just freestyle it a little bit. We've got punch, 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 punch. Yeah, we'll probably go 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, 1 inch, or something like that. I don't know. Something that'll look cool. That's what it's all about. If you can't be cool, you gotta look cool. All right, there we have it. It's a motor mount stiffener. It's got go fast holes in it. And is it saving any meaningful weight? No. Did I make a bracket a little bit weaker putting these holes in it? Yes. Is the bracket overbuilt? Also yes. So anyways, yeah, got a bracket, got some go fast holes in it. It's gonna look super cool. Nobody's ever gonna see it, but that doesn't matter because I know it looks cool. All right, well, we're about to attach the first motor mount, like all the way for sure. So now I'm gonna get this motor as perfectly lined up as I can. All right, so we've got the motor leveled up-ish. Yeah, we're between the lines. Not quite perfect, but we're there. And then I'm gonna go on my rear sprocket. It's got a little wobble, but not very much wobble. So I'm gonna line that up, and we are falling just touching the side of this sprocket, and that tells me these things are like real in line. So now it's time to tack weld on my little bracket here. I did move the front of the motor over like 3/8 of an inch, so maybe this bracket won't work like I planned. And yeah, bracket will work. Set it on there, doesn't have any specific place to go. It goes where I say it goes. There we go. And we'll tag it up here so it stays. Another one here, so it's real stout. Throw another one right here. I always try to put tack welds when I'm doing stuff like this in a place that you can get a grinder to it, because this might not be where it stays. I might need to adjust it a little. So always put my tack welds like in an accessible place. So now, I mean, we're better than we were, but now I'm gonna take and build a little triangulator or triangle here. We like triangulation. Triangulation's strong. mount, and I'm gonna check squareness. I got some stuff in the way. I kind of get sidetracked. I'm good at that. Kind of want to make sure like the stock Harley header works. Positive I'm not going to use it, but I might be able to use some of it. So I'm going to check squareness here. If I like squareness and how the motor's located, I'm going to put a little weld on both these motor mounts so I can get rid of my blocking underneath, and then we can you know, check clearances and get on to building lower motor mounts, and yeah, onward and upward. So yeah, I love the alignment. It's right where I want. So I'll give you a little idea of what I'm doing here. So my front mount, I'm sure we've kind of been over that in depth. So it kind of cradles this center beam frame thing, and then bolts into a stock Harley motor mount. And I'm gonna try to get you squared away here. Stock Harley motor mount. I've got the top plate that bolts to it. I've got this plate here with the go fast holes that you know, it supports it. So we got two angles of support. Kind of a crude motor mount plate here, and it bolts into the rear of the motor. And then I've got this piece of 1 5/8" tube left over from a roll cage I did in my Mustang, and you know, just did something there. Being round tube, it's kind of structural. So yeah, we're gonna burn some of this in. Throw a little weld on here. All right, so I've got my motor in on its own weight. No, the motor mounts aren't done, but it is in there, and nothing's holding it up. So I need to do some kind of motor mount on bottom here, because I can't just hang it off the head and the back of the tranny case or whatever. And I need to make some kind of suspension for back here. So I think I'm gonna do something to drop down from somewhere on the bottom of this tube here. I'm gonna do some kind of trailing arm deal back to the back, and work through getting some kind of like drop down frame here for my rear suspension and for more motor mounts. I've thought about doing like rigid mounted, solid mounted rear suspension, but I saw like in Cletus's golf cart, that thing's like unmanageable. Like, you gotta have some kind of rear suspension to get these things to work when you're like severely overpowered for the chassis that it's in. So I definitely have to go with some kind of suspension. So I'm not sure that the stock golf cart shocks are gonna be up to it. All right, so I've sat here and looked and looked and looked, and well, I think I got a solution for my rear suspension. I need something here in the middle to mount some motors off of, and I need something to mount my, I'm gonna do like a trailing arm style rear suspension, which is pretty much exactly what this thing had from the factory. So I'm gonna make up a couple, again, did arts and crafts time, made up a couple little brackets here out of cardboard. Obviously that ain't gonna work. But I'm gonna make these into steel. I'm gonna do heim joint here, heim joint over here. It'll be a little bit tight on the chain drive side, but it will fit. So anyways, yeah, I'm gonna do a little trailing arm that goes back. We're gonna go underneath these unit bearings. Underneath these unit bearings here, I need to make some kind of pretty big pad there, because right off the back of this unit bearing, I also on Amazon just ordered some kind of ATV shocks or whatever. Some like 12-inch long, you know, fancy looking shocks. We're gonna get along with getting some brackets cut out here. I don't know if this is the final rendition here, but yeah, I'm gonna get the cut and plate, and hopefully we can get this rear suspension wrapped up this weekend. That'd be like monumental. All right, well, we've got our kind of big bracket, roughly. It's nice and big. I should be able to do something, tab off of here or bolt off of here for my front motor mount. And then of course my trailing arms, there'll be two of these brackets, one will come off each side. So no sense trying to explain it. I'm just gonna get it done, and you'll see the results. Got one there, and then, all right. Now we'll fire up the plasma cutter, get these guys buzzed out of here, get them cleaned up a little bit, so on and so forth. And then of course, a big bracket like this, it's gotta have a ton of go fast holes. All right, well, got it clamped down, and got the plasma cutter. And yeah, there was a time when I had a what was it? I had a Langmuir little 2x3 CNC plasma cutter, and I honestly just didn't take the time to figure out how to program it and make it run efficient. Fast forward a few years, God, that'd be a great tool to have right now. I know how to program and yeah, all that. So we're doing it the old-fashioned way. I mean, I guess I'm not doing this with a cutoff wheel. So now I've got our two big drop-down brackets that are going to serve a lot of purposes. This is going to be the kind of the drop-down for my trailing arms, and it's also going to act as some kind of a mount for my 1 or 2 more motor mounts that I need to add. So these two pieces of 1/8 or 3/16 plate, whatever it is, in alone aren't going to be very strong. But what I'm going to do is I've cut a couple pieces of this 1.5" DOM tube. I'm going to recess it into my go fast holes that I did, and I'm going to weld it around here, and I'm going to weld the other one right over here, and then we're going to have a pretty rigid part here. So yeah, we're going to get the tacking. I've got my little creation made up here, kind of a drop down bracket. Got these pipes going through the go fast holes. That'll add structure and it'll look cool, because that's what we care about, is looking cool, right? And anyways, so once I get this thing welded out, I'm probably gonna go and sheet in the back of this thing too to really make it ultimate strong. And then it'll attach somewhere right about in here. And then it should be fairly simple to build some kind of bracketry for my little trailing arms. These things are gonna be extremely short, but it's a golf cart and everything's really small. So. So I've got my bracket, I've got my tubes welded through. It is one now, it's much stronger with the tubes welded through. I welded them inside and out. Anyways, so that's that, we're really coming along. Now I'm going to take, I already kind of cut and pre-bent a piece. I'm gonna start cladding the outside of this thing and we're gonna get ultimate strength. Tack him on, tack him on. I like that. Tack him down there.
A few moments later.
All right, I've got my bracket cooled down enough to actually handle. So I'm gonna set this guy in here, and I already kind of set it up here actually. And it appears that it's gonna be tight to get a trailing arm through here. It's gonna go right through the middle of the chain. I'm actually not sure if my whole plan to use the front of this as a motor mount is gonna work out. But I do have to drop this thing down for a bit of a, for the trailing arm mounts, and it looks kind of neat. So I'm just gonna lightly tack this guy on here, because when it comes time to making the brackets to mount my trailing arms to, I'm probably gonna want to do that out on the bench, or at least weld them out on the bench. So got my trusty Harbor Freight level. We're gonna square this guy up, or level it as much as possible. That looks pretty good. And I am gonna get to tacking it on, like I said, very lightly. Right about there. Oop. So I got one tack there. Now let's make sure we're still happy with how level it is. I'm right between the bubbles, so I'd say I'm happy with that. And then I'm gonna have to tack it good enough so I can beat this thing around a little bit when it comes time to getting the brackets on and whatever. And but I also, like I said earlier, you always want to tack this stuff where you can get a grinder to it and get it back off, because nobody wants to build some big fancy bracket like this and then you weld it on too much and then it's got to come off and you destroy it. So anyways, enough of that. put a little weld on here, or a few tacks on here, I should say, and then we'll get to looking at trailing arms and getting those things designed. I'm going to take this moment mid-video to say, hey, thanks for hanging out and checking out my project here and all my other projects I've had on here. And 85% of my viewers on my channel are non-subscribers. So hey, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what you see. And that's what I got. Shameless plug there. So like I was saying, I got to do a lot of things with the axle mount back here for this trailing arm. I have to mount the axle for starters. I have to mount my shock off of here somehow. And also I have to tie in for my trailing arm. And I have to do a caliper bracket. So I chose to use this, it's just like 1x2, 3/16 square tubing, rectangle tubing, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna put it on here, I'm gonna mark my holes. I'm gonna drill my 3/8 bolt holes here. I'll drill something bigger than a 9/16 socket on the backside so I can tighten it. And yeah, so gotta start somewhere. So I took and I cut like a 3-inch strip because, well, 3-inch flat bar is all I can get at the local hardware store, so that's what I'm limited to. I do want to draw this guy on here, and I kind of want to have it make a dog leg, because on the other side, the chain drive side, I'm very limited in space, and I kind of need it to jump over and get through the chain without any interference. So I've got quite the boomerang shape here, and I made that out of a 3-inch wide piece strip. Kind of show you here. On my chain drive side, got my mounting bracket here. And then I don't have my pillow block mount yet, but there we go. We'll clear the chain and this rear drive sprocket by, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. It's hard to say at this point, but that should give me plenty clearance. So now, I think I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna go over to the bench. I'm gonna cut out 4 of these guys. So I took my cardboard templates. Got my trailing arm pieces traced out on my flat bar here. So I'm gonna fire up the plasma torch and get to cutting. These things ground up, well, they're all pretty even. I'm totally out of sanding discs, so I think that's where I'm gonna finish today. All right, well, like everything, we lost another week. Amazon is convenient, but it sure isn't prime when you live out in the middle of nowhere like I do. So I've got my Heim joints, my weld-in tube adapters, and then I actually found a couple of these little tabs in my toolbox. So had those, had to make a couple also. So anyways, got that. I just want to bring these things out real quick. It's pretty friggin' amazing what you can get on Amazon for like no money. I got the pair of these shocks for like $60. They're not adjustable as far as compression and rebound. They are a gas shock. They do adjust in ride height. And well, I don't know how good they are, but I made the point earlier. It's all about looking cool. So we're gonna be looking cool. Anyways, got my Heims, got my brackets. I've got my drop down bracket here that well, it's pretty much exactly what I want. I'm gonna take my tabs here, kind of weld them at a skew off of there, and then well, we're gonna get our trailing arms going here, running back to my I guess we'll call it axle side trailing arm bracket. I cut out a few of these side plates for my trailing arms. So these tube adapters, I'll figure out how to get them welded into that end. Obviously, I'm going to turn this into a box. I'm going to have these guys about like so, and then I'll figure out what I have to do for plate work going this way. Probably would have been a lot easier to do this with tubing, but I needed them to be skewed like this, and I don't have a tubing bender anymore. So And I kind of figure, you know, if I do these out of sheet metal, I do some more go fast holes, I do that like a fabricated trailing arm, I think it'll look pretty freaking cool. All right, well, we've done a little mock-up. I'm gonna mount these guys kind of in a skew like this, try to get as straight of a shot as I can. Got my trailing arm pieces, and well, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to my little marks here. I'm going to tack weld these guys on. And then I've already laid this other side out, so we can just save the BS. And yeah, we'll set these guys on here. Both sides look identical. So again, this is a little bit of a mock-up, but it's kind of hard to see from the angle you're at. But I got this dog leg over. I'm getting around the front side of my sprocket. If I go to a larger sprocket, I will still have plenty of room. You can see there, we got the dog leg coming around there, so I could go pretty much infinite size sprocket and I would have clearance. So that's what we were shooting for. Shoots right through the middle here, and yeah, so now we start getting fancy with the trailing arms. All right, well, I've got my little boomerang pieces here, and I've got some 1.25" flat bar, and we're gonna wrap this guy up. I'm not sure about the go fast holes the more I think about it. I don't know if I want to put holes through the middle of this. It's not a huge cross section, and I don't want to end up tacoing this thing by adding a bunch of holes through here, make it look cool, make it lighter, whatever. I don't think it's worth sacrificing strength. And I don't want to have to build these again if I do bend them. So, anyways, I actually already took and I bent one piece of 1.25" plate here, and I'm gonna take you through. I'm gonna cut another piece of flat bar here. We're gonna bend it. So you can see me forming that piece there. We've got our one piece is already on. Kind of line it up like so. Flush to the end. What I have down here is once I put this top piece on here, this will slide over that piece of box tubing that I'm using for my axle end of this this deal. So anyways, time to get to tacking. I'll take that. I numbered these or lettered these so I could get them all matched up the same way. You don't screw nothing up. So I got B side, I got B side. I'll lay this guy right on top. And use my quick speed square deal here. Get him sitting right on top of him. Lined up. Get a few more tacks on it, and then we'll go over and test fit this thing on the golf cart again. So here we go. You'll see I got this end open down here. That's gonna interlock over my box tube for my rear end, like I was saying. That guy there, it'll fit, the tube insert fits almost perfectly inside. It's a little sloppy, but we're gonna weld the crap out of it. It's gonna be just fine. And then he slides over, just like so. So there's the plan. We got my tube insert there. He interfaces on the rear end right there. Obviously, we're gonna have to tighten this all up and you know, get things perfectly in line and get it working on both sides. But there you go. There's the gist of it. So over on this passenger side, and get you where we're at. Over on this passenger side, I'm gonna have to have a caliper bracket come somehow off the back of this my deal here. That'll work for the caliper. I'm gonna have to do a shock mount up there. And then on this side over here, I am gonna have to do a shock mount right here, no caliper bracket. But then from this bracket here, I'm gonna have to do a short little panhard bar that goes whoop down, and then it will tie in somehow to that bracket. Well, I'm about as satisfied as I can be with these things. I woke up for work at 3:30 this morning. It's getting a little late in the night, so I'm going to finish off today with welding these guys up. They're going to be smoking hot, and then that way in the morning I can come out and I can get these things mounted in the golf cart and start really making some headway on the suspension stuff. So, without further ado, we're going to get to welding. Alright, so I had to cut my tabs off this drop down bracket here. Things weren't quite lining up like I wanted. Also, I have my tube inserts welded into my control arms here, radius arms, whatever you want to call them. So now I'm going to hold this guy up, kind of best fit, get everything fit on there the way that I like it. Looks good. Gonna give a little tack there. Another tack there. Now I'm gonna look, well, no. Now I'm gonna eyeball this. I do want to look across my control arms and make sure they appear to be on the same plane, and they do. Now, we'll tack weld the back here. So there we go. I have my lower control arm mounts. We're tied into the cross member. These brackets come at a skew, but being that this bracket's got a big taper, we have a pretty good transfer of energy coming up through here, right up into the main beam. You can see from the top, I've got both control arms in, if we want to call them that. Then this one side where I was going to have some chain clearance issues, well, like I've keep on saying, this arm comes out and then comes back, and you can see here I could put a considerably larger chain than what I have on there and we would still end up with well, good clearance. Being that these rear tires are, I don't know what they are, probably 18 or 20 inch, and a Harley is probably a 26-inch tire if I had to guess. I need to try to figure out the gear ratio. Maybe this smaller sprocket, smaller tire, the gear ratio will be about the same, but I don't want to end up with this thing you know, shifting out of first gear at 10 miles an hour, 20, 30, 40, 50. I don't want this thing to go 100 miles an hour, I don't think. But I do want to be able to have kind of usable gears. Even if I don't use 4th or 5th gear, that's fine. But I do want the gears that I am using to be kind of longer and be able to use the power. This thing's going to make, obviously, quite a bit of power. So anyways, there we go. Got control arms on. We can see across them. They line up real nice. Well, now it's time to make a panhard bar for the back of this thing. I didn't really have the tubing that I really wanted. This tubing's kind of on the light duty side, but really it's only 12 inches long, and it's for a golf cart. So I'm pretty sure it'll be up to the task. Anyways, haven't done much TIG welding on this project at all, but being how small this is, and well, being how small it is, I do want to TIG weld this end. I do want extra strength, and of course I don't have any ER70 TIG filler rod, so we're using 035 wire out of my MIG welder. Same stuff, ER70 S6 or S2 or whatever. So yeah, we're gonna get these rod ends welded on, get this one welded on, get it cut to length after I figure out what the length is, and then chop it, weld the other end on, and then figure out exactly what I want to do for a bracket on the axle side of things. Well, I've got my existing hole up here that I'm gonna definitely take advantage of. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go behind or in front of this bracket, but it doesn't matter. And then I'm gonna do some kind of something. I'm gonna need to save as much space as possible for my shock mount. So I'm probably gonna bring a tab that goes straight at an angle, not straight, but at an angle straight in line with this miter cut on the back of this block that I did. I kind of did that thinking I might need a little extra room. So we're gonna just say right about yonder. But in total, I think I'm gonna want this panhard bar to be about 14¼ inches. So, set this guy on here like so, figure out what 14 inches center to center is, chop it, weld it, boom. All right, line it up best I can. Kinda there and there, sitting on the bottom. I love it. Yep, love it. So, whammy, love it. All right, well, we're just gonna hope that this thing fits on the front. We're gonna hope. And I'm just gonna set a bolt through here. Well, crap, I can't really set a bolt through here. I don't have enough freaking room. All right, well, there we go. So up here on the chassis end of things, I kind of trimmed that tab on the backside. I don't know how well you can see that, but oh, that thing's bolted up. And then down here on the axle side of things, I've got my bracket. It comes right off the back of this mitered piece of tubing. I gotta say, I kind of thought that that was gonna be a thing when I cut the miter on the back of those things, partly just because I thought it'd look cool. The other part, because I knew I was gonna need as much room as possible because I gotta do a lot of stuff back here. So anyways, yeah, essentially, you could say my control arms and the axle control is done. And now, I can't say my rear suspension's done until I get shock mounts on here. So, next stop. So actually, I think it's all gonna work out and everything's gonna fit under this rear cross member, which is also my body mount. And I'm gonna be able to just do little shock tabs off the side of this trailing arm, and then probably almost the exact same shock mounts right off the bottom of this rear cross member. So that simplifies things a lot. Yeah. And as we were sitting here talking that out, I just realized that that heim joint allows this to rotate, and that pillow block bearing on the back also rotates. So if I mount my shocks, even if I mounted them in the center, actually, I might end up with this trailing arm rotating and hitting my rotor or hitting my sprocket. So I'm gonna have to do something to tie these trailing arms together. It's gonna be not trailing arms anymore. It's gonna be a wishbone. Well, that's life. Try to always forward think, but I guess I didn't forward think far enough there. So yeah, we're just trying to go fast. Gonna have like a 65 horsepower Harley Powered Golf Cart. I don't really plan to jump. Not to say that it won't jump. Okay, it'll jump. It'll jump. But I still think it's gonna be better than what it was. So I already made one lower shock mount bracket. Made it off camera because I wanted to save the pain of watching me struggle and make a bunch of these things before I found something that I was happy with. So there it is. I have it coming down and then wrapping under the bottom side of this tubing. Not that this leg adds a lot of strength, but this 1-inch tubing plus the radius on this thing, I'd only be attaching like 3/4 inch material. So I did this little wraparound deal. This goes a little bit above the top of the tubing, sits there like so, and then the shock mounts just like that, right about center of the tubing like I wanted. Gonna give you a shot that way. So I gotta make 3 more of these hot rods, and then we'll have bottom shock mounts done. And then as far as the top shock mounts go, it'll probably look just like this, just without that little leg on it, because that's gonna weld right up underneath that rear cross member on this thing. So anyways, enough talking about it. I'm gonna be about it. Got some shock tabs made up. It's about time to do some test fitting. I got one here on the vise. I got misalignment spacers cut, And then, yeah, misalignment spacer's cut. I have the tabs bolted onto the shocks here. Like I probably went over earlier, I've got, this is the same thing that my my trailing arm bracket's made out of. It fits about like so. We go over here to the back of the golf cart. And yeah, I got a shock kind of sitting in here. Yeah, on bottom, the brackets work good. Yeah, I do need to jack it up a little bit. The brackets work good, they fit on there nice. And then on top here, these brackets are just, on the back here, the bracket just kind of goes up under this cross member. So I don't know how good we can see that, but yeah, so pretty simple. I didn't want to overcomplicate it. And yeah, well, I think I achieved not overcomplicating it. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna cut these stock shock mounts off. And then I'm gonna get up underneath here and I'm gonna clean that up a little bit so I can get some weld on those upper shock mounts. And this is gonna be probably one of the easiest things I've done on this project. Alright, well, I've got the bottom of the shock mounted. Now I'm gonna mount the top of the shock right out here. I'm gonna mount the top of the shock right out here, right towards the edge where I cut that thing off. There's like a pocket that dropped down here and it was gonna be completely in the way. So yeah, I jacked it up some. I jacked it up a little too much. So I'm just gonna eyeball this thing about the center of that tube right there. And yeah, we're gonna tag it on. So let's go. There we go. Got it down there. Everything seems to fit. Do a little taggy. There. Kind of blind in there, but that'll do the trick. Here we go. Got my lower shock mount on there. Got it right at the back of that miter. Kind of wraps around, that's a good fit. And then there we go on top. The bolt's gonna be easy to get to. The shock's basically mounted straight up and down. So yeah, the reservoir's forward. I wanted to mount the reservoir. I kind of wanted to mount the shock with the reservoir that way, but well, I might have ended up with interference, that caliper or that rotor hitting my reservoir, and we don't want that. I've got shocks in. I'm gonna throw a little bit of weld on this thing so I can pull my jack out, maybe give it a little bounce test, or you know, just kind of see how things look, and you know, the personal satisfaction of knowing that I have a roller. That's a big step. I have a Sportster V-twin motor mounted in this thing. I've got new rear suspension, and I get enough little bit of weld on here. This thing will technically be a roller, so enough talking about it. I'm gonna be about it, do a little bit of welding here, and yeah, we're gonna pull this thing off the jack stands and see what it looks like. All right, this is the moment of truth. I've got a little bit of weld on my rear suspension. Pretty much everything's in place, short of a few stiffeners and brackets and whatnot. But this is the part where I jack that thing up, pull the jack stands out, we set it on the ground, and I have a rolling golf cart with a Harley motor in it. I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you, but I'm super excited. I can't wait to do burnouts and wheelies and donuts. Maybe not wheelies, but man, I'm excited. So let's just quit talking about it and let's do it. Well, it picked the rear end off the ground, so that's a good start. And here it goes. Hopefully we don't get a crack, boom, pop. Well, it's pretty anticlimactic, but hey, it's sitting on the ground, it's on its own weight. Well, we're on the ground. This is pretty exciting. We'll do a little walk around, kind of show you what it looks like, and yeah, this is about the part where we close out the video. Well, there you go. Got my trailing arms on there. Like I was saying before, you can see over on this side, the coilover being mounted off the outside edge of this thing. It's definitely got this this trailing arm rolled over and askew. I can probably, I can pull some of it out, but we're definitely gonna do something here. Turn this into kind of a wishbone more so than a trailing arm. But yeah, we got shocks on here. And got a little weld on there, got a little weld over there, got a panhard bar on there, and then kind of give you the overview. There it is. The motor's mounted. It's gonna get more mounts than what it has on it, but baby steps, guys. This is a big project, pretty big project. All right, well, we've got a motor mounted, we've got rear suspension done, and well, it's only up from here. It's been a pretty exciting project, and it's gonna continue to get even more exciting. I hope to be doing burnouts and papa wheelies and whatever this thing can do in a real short time. Thanks for sticking around. Again, don't forget, maybe hit that thumbs up button, maybe click that subscribe button. That'd be great. Thanks, we'll see you next time.